So I'm popping in to just riff a little bit about some things that I've been thinking about for a long time. Some things when I was little, I swear I wasn't even in school yet. I had lots of questions and no one could answer them. Throughout my life, growing up and things like that, I had lots of questions. And I remember being little, I wasn't in school yet, but I knew that I was going to college. No one had told me that I was going to college, but I knew I was going to college. And it wasn't about, oh, I know that I'm going to be a scholar and I'm going to be doing great things. It was more about having a remembrance of something, an agreement before incarnating. Okay, an agreement, and I believe that we all have these agreements before we are born. Otherwise, none of it makes sense. Okay. I remember feeling like an observer where I was observing just different things. So, like, if I was in a group of other children and people would refer to the children, I would feel like they weren't talking about me, they were talking about the other people. And I would be observing like I was on the outside looking in, like, okay, well, if you insist that I'm one of the children, but I really don't feel like one of the children, almost like I still had this memory of something else. And so, I dare I say it? Are we in the Twilight Zone? No, I'm not going to say Twilight Zone. I feel like it is an assimilation. I do feel like it's like one of those escape rooms. I've never been to an escape room, but I played the games online where you have to figure out these different codes and puzzles in order to unlock a little section, say in the drawer, to get a key out. Then that will, you have to figure out another code to figure out where you take the key to unlock the door or the opening, or the next level for the next phase of the game. And it's all coming to me. It's all starting to make more sense. Now, when I used to ask all the questions when I was growing up, I was like, why are we here? Like, why did God put us here? I would get answers like, God works in mysterious ways. And for me, that is not an answer. And I'm like, okay. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm just going to table it. Until then, I'm going to go about my life and enjoy myself. Throughout my life, I would see different signs and symbols and synchronicities, and I would just sort of file them away. I was always a lucid dreamer, and I would dream in vivid color, and I would wake up so excited because my dreams would be very whimsical. I had nightmares as well, still do sometimes and still dream lucidly, but I always would say, what does that mean? And I would talk about my dreams and just be all excited about it. And people would say, well, it's just a dream. And I'm like, that makes no sense to me because why would we dream at all if it's just a dream? What's the point of it then if it's just a dream? It would not exist if there was nothing more to it than that. So I'm like, fine, I'll table it. And I would always like, I dream, I get these dreams. And then fast forward to maybe like 7, 8 years ago, I started seeing my date of birth, the month and the day, all the time, every day. And I'm like, okay, I know that means something. I don't know what, but it means something. I would see it every day throughout the day, whether it was on a clock or on a piece of paper or whatever, piece of mail, whatever. I would see that combination of numbers. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this all means something. And I remember, like different conversations. It could be from strangers, friends, family. Throughout my life, people would say things, and I would be like, wow. And I would file it away. I would just keep remembering the things. I would just file it away. I'm like, there's something more to this, and there's something going on. And I remember my father saying that we choose our parents. And for whatever reason, I was very young when he said that, but for whatever reason, I didn't ask him to expound on it. He was like, oh, we do, like, oh, okay. But I always remembered that. I always just kind of filed that away. And I'm like, so many other things, even down to, for example, throughout my lifetime, I would be around, like growing up with, like can you see? I have a piece of art behind me. It's a woman. That is a what do you call it? A velvet painting from the 70s. Grew up with that in my house, and it's a woman, but I would have these types of different images of women, different types of paintings and portraits as I grew up, even as a young adult. Even now, I would get gifted like a picture or a portrait of a piece of art, and it would be one woman in it, all of them different. And I'm like, why? And just looking around the house, I was like, wait a minute, all these pictures have just one woman. And I'm like, there has to be something to this. Like, what's going on? So I said all that to say that there are lots of signs and symbols that we are given, just like in a escape room or video game or whatever, or like one of those games where you have to go room to room and figure out the puzzles. And we receive the messages in order to unlock and go to the next stage or next level or whatever. We have free will. I know we have free will, and that's part of the reason why a lot of us kind of stray away from the mission that we agreed upon. And I'm just thinking, like, well, without free will, we wouldn't have the pain and suffering like this. And some people, they kind of feel like this is kind of weird and airy fairy. But my question to those people would be, why are you here? Like, you have to ask yourself, why am I here? Why are any of us here? What is this about? Like, do you really believe you're a piece of lint just kind of floating about and that's all that there is? There is more to this thing. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist. And anyway, back to the signs and symbols. We ignore them, or we don't realize that's what we're seeing, or we kind of discard and dismiss them as, what do you call it? Coincidences, when really it is the cosmos. It's God. That's what I call the big energy. Our guides. I mean, we're all one. Everything is connected. So it's not as though like everything is separate. We have an illusion of separation from everything, from the Most High, from each other, from nature. It's all an illusion. It's assimilation. And I'm not sure why I haven't shared this on this channel before, but I am going to start coming on and just riffing more about what I have in here because somebody has to hear it. But after I started to figure out this game, I was like, oh, now do I miss some of the signs? I'm sure I do. But one way you can tell when you miss signs and symbols, like if you're supposed to go left in your plan, in the mission that you agreed to accomplish, because that's what your guides and higher self are trying to lead you that way. If you go this way, because you have free will, then you might run into more, like traffic, bumps in the road, obstacles, maybe some hard times, because what the way it works is you will get some nudges like, hey, don't go this way, go this way. And you're like, no. And they try to do it. And then finally it's like, and then it's like, okay, now we have the pain and suffering piece of it. But so a lot of times if you're not going in the right direction of your purpose and your passion, it's based on how you feel. It's based on how you feel. There are lots of other ways you can look into, like your astrology, natal chart, and your human design makeup and all of that to sort of get a guide or whatever. But honestly, if you think about just check in with yourself and just sit and check in with yourself, you'll get the answers. You just have to be quiet and not go here. This here keeps us all jacked up when we're just constantly just using this instead of also like relying on our intuition, our inside, our heart. Okay, so that's what can cause some of the issue. But notice how you feel when you've made the turn, the left turn, for example, and you're going in the right direction. Notice how that feels to you. Everybody's is going to be completely different. So even if there's 20 people going right, if you know that right, if you feel that right is incorrect for you, then you are correct. Therefore, you need to go left or go up or down or whatever. All right. All the ideas, when you think about some outlandish ideas that you might have had, can you imagine how we're benefiting right now because of all the outlandish ideas that actually manifested into our reality? I would not be talking to you on this device. You would not be seeing me on your device. We would not even have a light on, okay, if it wasn't for someone's outlandish, bright idea, no pun intended. But we wouldn't have electricity or any of that. I will be in here in the dark with a torch trying to asking if you can see me. So you think about that too when you have an idea that seems like it's far fetched. It's not. It's not. It is a divine download. And all you have to do is just allow. I know I'm going on, and then, but it's a long subject and everything is connected. Like, I had a question. Why are we here? Why are bad things happening? Why do good people have bad things happen to them? Maybe these good people, maybe they had an agreement before they incarnated this time around to master something. Like, I feel like there's some things that I had to master and the players were put in place and everybody agreed, okay, you want to master this, then I'm going to come down here, I'm going to give you a hard time. I'm going to keep on being that thorn in your side until you master this. This is the agreement. Okay, so you got the people who love you, they just love on you, and then you got the people who love you till you out of your mind. In other words, i.e. getting on your nerves. Anyway, but it's a whole thing. And then, so it's about what the agreement was, and for me, this is a knowing, it's a resonance within me. That's how I'm able to now connect the dots. I'm like, all of this is making sense now. This is a game. And all I needed to know is what kind of game it was and how to play it. So you pay attention to the signs, symbols, and synchronicities around you. Flow with who you actually are. Okay, so play and have fun. Get in there to your inner child. I'm still my inner child. I think it's really important, and a lot of answers are back in our childhood. Not the bad stuff, but when you really dial back, just sit quietly and dial back and think about what it was that you loved to do. What were your interests? What toys did you play with? What did you gravitate to the most? And that'll start unlocking and giving you some answers, And then as far as like the bad stuff that's happening around the world, we're like, what's going on? A lot of people are worried and concerned. And I truly believe that it's just a mirror, because everything is one. We are all one, and we are essences of the Most High. I feel like it's a mirror for us to see. Like, hello, you see what's before you. Wake up, start loving yourself, love your neighbor, be giving, go somewhere and play. You are not separate from anything. That's an illusion. You are nature, so get out in it and rub on some grass or hug a tree or something and create. Whatever creation is for you. It does not necessarily mean art. It doesn't necessarily mean writing. But if you're in the workplace, for example, corporate America, maybe you can create some sort of efficiency type of program or process that'll help save them money. Whatever whatever you really love digging into, do that and then expand on it. do that for the community church if you're into church or wherever you know, worship, or if you're at the library volunteering, wherever you volunteer, you know, for the children, for the senior, whatever it is, it just has to be you. So the mirror is to remind us to wake up and start to remember who we are and to get into formation. And the more that we do that, the more we elevate the vibration of this world, the more we elevate the vibration just from where we are. If we all agree to do it, then it'll automatically just spiral into something huge and bigger, where the vibrational change for everyone, and we'll all be in a space of love and light, upliftment, unfoldment. It's just so beautiful. I am so excited, and I will see you in the next riff.